In this video we're going to take a look at dragon units and their status in the game after update 2.0. So before we get into the main change the update brought, let's talk about some pros and cons about the dragon class in general. One pro is that they are melee units that deal magic damage and are pretty bulky. With that combination, they are great fighters against the other melee physical damaging units. Dragons also get lightning breath, which is an amazing inheritable distant counter weapon that all of them can use. Such a powerful effect on a weapon combined with certain skill combinations and their tanky stats make them amazing enemy phase units. On the flip side, dragons initially had a good amount of weapon counters. There are now 5 falchion users, with one of them being given out for free, and the introduction of Naga kept them down for quite a while. This is mainly due to their generally low res stat and low speed, which meant mages could take advantage of. Most mages also had a pretty good res stat of their own, and thus didn't have to worry about Lightning Breath's counterattack. Meanwhile, the two fastest dragons both have low attack stats, and the other dragons will rarely double unless they get the appropriate build, so their player phase isn't the best out there. Another con is that there are only 6 dragons in the game, and I doubt many more will be added soon. That said, each dragon does have their own uses and can function differently. These are just a few pros and cons. Obviously there are a couple outliers for each stat generalization, but in general dragons have become an amazing class of units and you should not take them lightly. Now let's discuss Lightning Breath and why I think it's such a strong weapon. First off, built-in distant counter is a very powerful ability, and the fact that it is inheritable is insane. It's also not hard to find since it comes on Adult Tiki, who is a 3-star unit, and Noe, who is a 4-star unit. You can easily sacrifice an Adult Tiki to pass along Lightning Breath and free up that important A slot. Another relevant issue is that Lightning Breath is not affected by Sakei's Blessing, and Bravelyn has become a regular arena enemy. Having a unit that can shake off her attacks and kill her is a valuable asset to any team. I would also like to mention that I don't think Lightning Breath is a bad option on any of the dragons. The only downside is the increased special cooldown, and that can hurt the lower attack dragons who need their specials to secure kills. I still think built-in distant counter outweighs this negative. I also believe that Light Breath and Dark Breath also received meaningful buffs, and honestly running them with distant counter is an option as well. Lightning Breath is just way easier to obtain. So the craziest buff to dragons in update 2.0 is the addition of a new effect to all dragon breaths when upgraded in the weapon refinery. Tacked on to each old effect now includes when attacking a foe with 2 range, damage is calculated using the lore of the foe's defense or resistance. Basically for ranged enemies, if their res is higher than their defense, then dragons will instead use their defense in the damage calculations. This means ranged units with lopsided defensive stats are now at a huge damage disadvantage. This change affects 54 ranged units if I counted correctly, and it basically grants free damage against high res enemies. Dragons don't need to be attacking at range with Lightning Breath to gain this adaptive damage. If they initiate an attack against a ranged unit, then they still get this effect. Now I'll go over and visibly show the units who are most affected by this change and now have to watch their backs. So this image showcases all the units who had a difference of 10 to 14 points between their resistance and their defense at a 5-star neutral state. Bravelyn gets hit with a 10-point difference, and that is pretty big. Ranged units with low HP and low defense are now pretty susceptible to dragon attacks when before they didn't have to worry due to their high res. I have included healers mainly because of their own weapon refinery buffs, and we may start seeing them more combat medic builds pop up. Now here's where things get a bit crazy. I would say all of these units are massively affected by the adaptive damage changes and could possibly be in danger of being one-shot by dragons with the upgraded breath. 2 important units here are Deirdre and Julia, who both wield the Naga tomes. While they still do a lot of damage to dragons, they themselves can still be killed, especially if they get hit twice. Poor Lucius has the biggest differential with a huge 22-point difference. Also interesting to point out the other 4 colorless units, Felicia, Halloween Sakura, Innes, and Niles. Even if they weren't killing the dragons beforehand, they could still tank their attacks pretty well. Now, no amount of resistance stacking can protect them. So out of the 54 ranged units affected, 31 of them had resistance and defense differentials of 10 or more. It really is crazy how much damage is gained from this effect. So post update 2.0, dragons are definitely in a stronger place than ever before. They benefited big time from the weapon refinery. The added adaptive damage is amazing, and that's not even including all the stat boosts that come with it. Seriously, an extra 5 HP and 4 defense or resistance only adds to their amazing bulk, and even the speed upgrade can be used. Dragons are super flexible to build just based off their stats and natures, and you can invest into defense, resistance, or both. As we discussed, high-res ranged units are not that safe anymore. With quick riposte on most builds, this added damage boost can easily KO a ton of these low defense units. While not really a product of the update, the falchion users have really fallen off since the game's launch. They have mostly been replaced by better sword users either with distant counter or hyper offensive threats like Ira and Mia. While Naga is still a relevant threat, the two Tikis can tank both users thanks to color advantage. In general, dragons are terrifying enemy phase units. The ever popular Steady Breath and Quick Riposte combo can be abused by the dragon class thanks to Lightning Breath's distant counter and their ridiculous mixed defenses. Speed isn't an issue if they can tank both hits and get the KO on the second counter. Tools such as close and distant defense Sacred Seals add even more defensive capabilities, and dragons have only benefited from the long list of defensive skills added to the game. Any stat boosters can make dragons super difficult to take out, and I have already run into a few Fury 3 upgraded Lightning Breath dragons that I just couldn't defeat because they had a ton of defense, resistance, and speed. I am not sure if dragons will become the new meta, and every arena team will be running one. The Tiki still get destroyed by Reinhardt, Faye is obliterated by Falchion, and the 3 blue dragons are susceptible to the Nagatomes due to color advantage. However, if you have any dragons with good natures lying around, then now would be a good time to build them. With a little investment, they can become seriously scary monsters. That's it for this video, and I hope you guys enjoyed. If you want to share your built up dragon units, then I'd love to see them. Subscribe for more Fire Emblem Heroes content, and I will see you guys in the next video.